Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, I've always suspected that SNP politicians are a bit stupid, and I always work on the principle that if you think that they're stupid, they'll never let you down. Now, some of them obviously are. When you look at the likes of Shona Robinson, for example, you can see quite clearly there's not even a glimmer of intelligence behind the eyes. But Beryl, you think maybe he has got something about him. He may be aware of things. And then he does something like he's done today. And you realise that he is just as thick as everyone else. Because he sat and he's criticised Labour's plans for the oil industry. And the only reason he's done that, I think, is that he's forgotten his own party's policy on North Sea oil. And for a man to forget his own party's policy when he was so vociferously defending that policy just a couple of months ago seems very weird. How could he stand there and defend his own party's policy and then just 2 months later go against it? I don't get it either. But then I'm not as stupid as Stephen Flynn. Let's have a look to see why old Beryl is not the brightest button in the box. Here goes. Now, you do wonder how hard it can be to remember things from a couple of months ago when you're standing there and saying that it was Scotland's choice and that they needed to get rid of the oil industry. They needed to move forward into the new uplands and the sunny uplands of wind power and solar and all those wonderful green things and get rid of that nasty, dirty oil. And so he was up there and he was talking about letting the North Sea go. And then when Rishi Sunak announced new drilling licenses, and he was, this is a terrible thing, this is a terrible thing. And so when Labour announced that they're going to have a windfall tax on North Sea oil, Flynn stands there and saying, this is a terrible idea because it's going to damage the industry. It's going to damage the industry that you want to close. This is what happens. These people are so stupid, they don't understand. There's also the fact, of course, that he is actually an Aberdeen MSP. So maybe the people of Aberdeen have grabbed him to one side, grabbed him by his collars and said, "Oi, Stephen, have a word, have a think. Do you want to stay as an MSP or an MP? Sorry, or do you fancy a bit of unemployment?" Because that's the only reason I can think he's changed his mind so quickly. Either that or he's forgotten. It says 50-50. Has he had a bit of a slap from his constituents, or has he just literally forgotten because he's very stupid? Anyway, the Nats Westminster leader was furious at Labour's plans to raise the energy profits levy to 78%, but has been accused of having a short memory because his party are hostile to the sector. Honestly, you couldn't make this up. It's why do they only ever employ stupid people? Anyway, the SNP's policy on North Sea oil and gas is today in disarray after Westminster leader Stephen Flynn hit out at Labour plans to increase the windfall tax on energy companies. The Aberdeen South MP claimed the proposed rise from 75 to 78 would destroy jobs and devastate Aberdeen. His party want to destroy all oil jobs and totally devastate Aberdeen. But because Labour are proposing it, it's wrong. Whereas if he was doing it, it would be fine. Good job. Good job, Beryl. Anyway, the Nationalists have supported a windfall tax in the past, while the party leadership is seen as hostile by the fossil fuel industry. Humza Yousaf has hit out at Rishi Sunak's plans to hand out more drilling licenses in the North Sea, while at the same time planning to use oil and gas revenues to fund the country if Scotland leaves the UK. And this is what they've got. They've got this major dichotomy, haven't they? Because they sit there and they go, we hate oil, we don't want oil, we're going to close down all the oil fields. How are you going to pay for an independent Scotland? Oil. Boom. Honestly, they shouldn't be let out alone. I mean, they need to go out. Whenever they're around, they've got to have a responsible adult with them. Because they are dangerous. They're that stupid. They're going to do themselves harm. Anyway, the Scottish Government Energy Minister, Gillian Martin, whose Aberdeenshire East constituency relies heavily on the oil and gas sector, was also criticised for failing to welcome the awarding of the Rosebank licence, a move that will bring $8 billion in investment. And the Nats have been accused by the industry of turning its back on the sector to placate the Scottish Government partners, the Scottish Greens, who for some reason think oil is a bad thing and yet haven't worked out any way of replacing it. They just say stop it now. What are we going to replace the oil with? We don't know. Because they don't, of course. They never will. Too stupid. Anyway, the Scottish Tory Aberdeen MSP Douglas Lumsden accused Mr Flynn of having a terribly short memory, adding, he hopes that people in the North East have forgotten the SNP policy on oil and gas. The SNP at Westminster shouted and howled for a windfall tax that was far harder than the Energy Profits Levy. And this policy would have given them exactly what they want. It's the hypocrisy, isn't it? It's the, we've got to shut down the oil and gas industry so that the Greens are happy, even though we know we need the oil and gas industry if we get independence. Also, the oil and gas industry is important for jobs, but we still want to cut it down, but we don't want anyone else to cut it down. If it's going to go under us. That's the SNP way. As far as I can tell, they don't want anyone else to damage it. It must be them that kills it. Does that make sense? Not to me. Anyway, Labour's plans have also been criticised by the industry, but the party pounced in Mr Flynn's comments. Shadow Scotland Secretary Ian Murray said the mask has slipped as the SNP once again abandons struggling Scots in favour of the oil and gas giants, making eye-watering profits from the cost of living crisis. And of course, the energy companies, their oil and gas prices are giving them massive profits. And so it's only right, that profit is ploughed back, I think. The SNP had to be embarrassed into supporting the windfall tax in the first place. And this latest U-turn brings them full circle. This is rank hypocrisy, said from the SNP, whose empty rhetoric on the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis has been left in tatters. There is no climate crisis. He added, Labour's transformative plans will cut bills, blah, blah, blah. We don't care. It's just Labour pushing a thing and taking the tax. And that's fine. But, you need that money. You need that income. That's the whole bloody point of having the oil fields, is to give that income. Speaking to the Press and Journal, Mr Flynn claimed Labour's plan would decimate the economy and demolish any hopes of delivering net zero. He wants to shut down the entire gas and oil industry. He wants to decimate Aberdeen. He wants to remove all the industry from Aberdeen. Make Aberdeen third world. No jobs. No future. And he dares to criticise other people. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Anyway, he said the real result of this Labour tax plan will see investment in nuclear projects in England that won't benefit Scottish energy security. Well, why not put a nuclear power station in Scotland? Oh, that's right. You don't believe in them. Well, here's the thing. They exist, whether you believe in them or not. And ultimately, when England's got 36 nuclear power stations or however many, you'll be buying nuclear power from England because all your big bird choppers won't be turning so fast when the wind isn't blowing. And of course it's Scotland, so, solar power, not so much. Anyway, I'll round off and come up and we can laugh at Stephen Flynn and his hypocritical two-faced twonkery. What an arse. Imagine the next Scottish government is made up of Labour. And Labour go, right, we're building this nuclear power station. Boom, put it in. Dounreay, for example. You've got the infrastructure there. Boom. In it goes. Dounreay, power station, up and running. Next government comes in. Oh, it's SNP. Back to SNP. And they go, oh, we don't like nukes. Well, you can't turn it off. And so they'll have to use it. And then they'll realise, oh, actually, no, it's okay. Yeah, okay. Constant run. Because they want to turn Scotland into this bird-chopping, solar-powered paradise. But you can't run the entire country on it. There isn't enough capacity. You'd have to upgrade your grid, the national grid. Cost billions upon billions and take years upon years. It'll never happen. Especially if you want to make every house all electric heating and every car electric to run. And that's before you even get into running industry. They live in cloud cuckoo land. And it's shown and highlighted by the fact that you have people as stupid as Beryl Flynn sitting there talking out the back of his head because he's forgotten his own party's policy. For heaven's sake. Anyway, thank you very much. Do please pay attention at the back. Until next time, stay safe, stay well. Remember, nuclear is the way forward, despite what the Greens say. And that All politicians are stupid. Bye.